Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we're going to take a look at what the tentacles from Planet X really are. Within the unsettling, mist-shrouded realm conceived by Stephen King and masterfully brought to life in the 2007 film Adaptation, directed by Frank Darabont, lurks one of the most disturbing and cryptic creatures in his vast mythology, the infamous tentacles from Planet X. These beings, born from the dimensional rift that engulfs the small town of Brickton, perfectly embody the unknown and the brutal indifference that characterize King's brand of cosmic horror. Their ambush and attack style reveals an unsettling ambiguity. They could be living fragments of an immeasurably vast entity, a leviathan hiding behind the wall of mist, or individual creatures driven by the same primal instinct to relentlessly hunt any living being that crosses their path. Whatever their true nature, the mystery surrounding these tentacles is what makes them a symbol of the purest, most primal horror, that ancestral fear of what hides beyond our limited perception. It was Norm's group who, paralyzed by a mix of fascination and terror upon seeing them for the first time, decided to christen those unnatural limbs with the name Tentacles from Planet X. This nickname, far from being a simple offhand joke, is a nostalgia-laden nod to the man from Planet X, a gem of pulp science fiction released in 1951. That old film encapsulated the essence of monsters arriving from distant, unknown reaches, exactly the same vibe that emanates from these aberrations lurking in the mist. Although their appearance in the plot is relatively brief, the mark they leave is as intense as it is indelible. They act as secondary antagonists that embody the unpredictable violence of whatever lies beyond the mist, a border that separates our world from one that defies all logic. Before we delve into the bizarre biology that defines their existence and the secrets of the special effects that brought them to life on the big screen, it's essential to step back and examine in detail the chilling context of their appearance, both in the pages of the original story and in its sinister cinematic reimagining. In both versions, the nightmare unfolds almost identically. It all begins when the customers trapped inside the food house supermarket are forced to face a problem as mundane as it is fatal. The electric generator is leaking gas and threatens to shut down, leaving them in the dark and defenseless. With no other option, a small group gathers their courage and ventures into the loading dock area, unaware that the dense blackness swirling outside hides horrors beyond imagination. The novella hints, in a subtle yet suggestive way, that these tentacles belong to a colossal being, a shapeless abomination that glides around the supermarket, watching from the shadows. The tension snaps like a thread when Jim, Myron, and David manage to open the electric gate so Norm, the young man driven by the need to prove his bravery, can slip outside in hopes of clearing the exhaust vent. But what seemed like a simple maintenance task turns, within seconds, into a deadly ambush. As soon as Norm approaches the blocked exit, the tentacles materialize from the mist like living whips, bursting into the storeroom with an almost alien violence. They immediately grab him by the leg, drag him, and overpower him with grotesque force. David and Ollie barely manage to react. The strength of those monstrous limbs shatters any hope of rescue. Desperate, and with no way to break free, Norm is slowly swallowed up, his scream fading into the mist that devours every shred of hope for return. As the tragedy unfolds, one of the tentacles, disproportionately larger than the others, amuses itself by devouring entire bags of dog food as if they were mere candies, under the frozen gaze of Jim and Myron, who, paralyzed by terror, can do nothing but back away. With nerves stretched to the limit and adrenaline fueling every move, David manages to close the storeroom gate just in time. Armed with an improvised axe, he delivers a precise blow, slicing off part of one of the tentacles before sealing the entrance completely. What's left inside isn't just a lifeless piece. It's a twitching, pulsing fragment, a slice of nightmare that still rides its soft mass, as if searching for prey. Stunned and drenched in sweat, David, Ollie, and Myron bring the fragment to the supermarket manager, who first assumes it's a macabre prank meant to heighten the already mounting tension. But any attempt at denial dissolves when he gets a close look at the pulsing piece. It oozes a viscous, greenish, murky fluid, releasing a stench that blends briny seawater with something deeply putrid. It's irrefutable proof that whatever lurks in the mist doesn't belong anywhere remotely near Earth. In the novella, the tentacles from Planet X make one final return, almost like a whisper that the nightmare never truly left. As David, his young son Billy, and a handful of survivors manage to escape Brickton in a truck, the road cutting through the forest is blocked by those limbs, slithering like living roots. Enigmatically, the tentacles retreat, pulling back without attacking, as if the vehicle were invisible to their ravenous hunger. This final gesture, incomprehensible and cruel in its ambiguity, marks the end of their appearance, making it clear that their threat persists, hidden somewhere within that endless fog. Now that we've revisited these key moments, it's impossible to ignore the appearance that makes them so hard to erase from memory. Visually, they evoke the tentacles of squids or octopuses, only on a monstrous scale, with a slick, ominous sheen that reflects light as if it were breathing. Unlike marine cephalopods, they lack suction cups. Instead, each appendage contains a circular jaw lined with fangs, a ring of teeth that snaps open to bite and tear living flesh mercilessly. King describes them as fleshy masses of sickly pink on the inside, covered by a grayish, damp, almost gelatinous skin. The film version intensifies this vision by adding details that are even more disturbing. Retractable fangs that shoot out like blades the moment they detect nearby flesh, and irregular spines protruding from the surface, serving as both defensive and offensive barbs. An exclusive trait of the movie is their unsettling ability to emit high-pitched screeches, a kind of shrill cry that chills the blood when they launch an attack or when one of them is injured. This sound detail reinforces the feeling that these aren't merely tentacles. They are sentient predators, hungry and cruel, living fragments of something far greater that never reveals its true form. In the film adaptation of The Mist, the appearance of the tentacles from Planet X remains extraordinarily faithful to the nightmare Stephen King imagined in his original work. Unnatural extensions that defy known biology, covered by a disturbing mosaic of tones that shift from a damp, fleshy pink to grayish shades, with delicate purple streaks that glisten whenever light brushes against them. Their mere presence, viscous and pulsing, gives the unsettling sense of witnessing a fragment of a wrong reality, a piece of living flesh that should never have existed under our natural laws. A particularly disturbing and visually unforgettable detail is what happens when one of these appendages is wounded or severed from the main body. Its flesh, if such a worldly term can even be used, liquefies within seconds, disintegrating into a dark, thick, viscous puddle that bubbles and froths as if it still clung to a flicker of life. This instant decay leaves behind a sharp, penetrating stench and the unsettling certainty that something which should never have broken through into our world has done exactly that. Some even speculate, though King never directly confirms it, that this fluid might possess corrosive properties and a toxicity as extreme as its alien origin, a poison so foreign to earthly biology that touching it would mean, at best, a slow and painful death. It's impossible to ignore a narrative echo that connects these beasts with another dark corner of King's multiverse, from a Buick 8. In its pages, King describes equally incomprehensible entities, creatures that, when killed or exposed, collapse into a blackish, gelatinous mass. For many fans, this nod is no mere coincidence. It could be a subtle clue that the terror buzzards roaming the mist and the creatures emerging from the Buick might share the same origin. Perhaps an interdimensional portal, a rift opening into a savage reality indifferent to the laws of physics and human logic. The exact reason behind this sudden decomposition remains shrouded in mystery. Some believe that once amputated or severed from the main body, the titanic host of which they might be a part, the tentacles lose the vital energy that sustains them. Others argue that, once isolated from their natural habitat, the very mist that cradles them like a lethal womb, their cellular structure collapses, unable to withstand Earth's atmosphere. For those who follow the trail of From a Buick 8, this second theory makes more sense. The mist is not just a veil hiding the predators, but an entire ecosystem, an extension of their world, a hostile environment that feeds, shelters, and allows them to exist. A fascinating fact, one that often goes unnoticed, is their hunting pattern, which breaks all evolutionary logic and contradicts the predatory routines of other species in the mist. While creatures like the arachnilobsters, the gray widowers, the scorpion flies, or the terrabuzzards prefer to stalk under the cover of night, the tentacles from Planet X seem just as comfortable attacking in broad daylight. They appear to be guided by an extremely acute sense of smell or some form of chemical detection, demonstrated first when they sniff out entire bags of dog food, tearing them from the shelves before devouring them, and later when they detect Norm's human flesh, tracking his scent before lunging at him with surgical precision. Their method of hunting is as brutal as it is straightforward. They slither and coil around their target, strangling it and reducing any resistance to nothing. Once the prey is immobilized, they deploy the jaws hidden at the base of each limb, toothed rings that snap open like wells of living blades. With these ravenous maws, they tear through muscle, tendons, and bone at monstrous speed. Norm's fate, trapped, helpless, and consumed in mere seconds, becomes a visceral reminder of the cruelty of this method. Some King and Darabont enthusiasts go even further. They theorize that these hidden mouths not only bite and shred, but also secrete a corrosive enzyme capable of liquefying flesh and making digestion easier for the beast. Although neither the novella nor the film openly confirms this hypothesis, the visual clues and the behavior of the tentacles feed the idea that we are witnessing a biological horror of terrifying efficiency, designed to devour without leaving a trace. But perhaps the most disconcerting question, the one that haunts every fan of The Mist, is this: are these tentacles merely the limbs of an inconceivable leviathan hiding behind the opaque veil of the fog, or are they autonomous entities, like colossal worms that hunt independently? The novella hints they might be attached to an aberration of impossible size, a titan lurking around the food house without ever fully revealing itself. However, the film cleverly plays with this ambiguity, feeding the legend without closing it, inviting each viewer to piece together their own monster in the shadows of their imagination. Neither Stephen King nor Frank Darabont has ever confirmed or denied these theories, keeping alive the speculation that makes this mythology so rich. And if we dare to keep digging into this warren of horrors, their possible origins become even more enigmatic. Some followers argue that these abominations come from alien realms or are connected to the relentless wastelands of the vast Dark Tower universe. Others claim that the tentacles from Planet X are, in fact, the appendages of a single colossal being, the mythical behemoth that David and the survivors glimpse in the distance during their escape, a nightmare mass dragging monstrous tentacles around its skull and back. Supporting this theory is that seismic tremor that shakes the supermarket walls just before the generator fails, a deep rumble that makes every shelf and light bulb vibrate, as if something enormous were moving slowly near the building, hidden by the curtain of mist. Nevertheless, others firmly dispute this version, arguing that the behemoth's size and shape would not allow it to manipulate tentacles with the surgical precision we saw in Norm's attack. According to this second view, the tentacles from Planet X would belong to another creature, perhaps a titanic, cephalopod worm adapted to crawl and stalk on solid ground, slithering through the mist like a silent hunter, free from any constraint of form or habitat. According to this hypothesis, it was this monster, and not the behemoth, that caused the duct blockage and the tremor that rattled the food house walls. Its curiosity, or rather its insatiable hunger, would have extended those tentacles to inspect, sniff out, trap Norm, and devour him without leaving a single trace, dragging him into a realm of fog where all hope and every natural law ceased to exist.